They told the world that Burkina Faso was a place with no future, a country locked in by land, by poverty, and by the grip of foreign control. They said the people were too poor, too fractured, too forgotten to rise. But what if silence wasn't surrender? What if the quiet wasn't weakness, but the sound of planning? What if the most radical revolution unfolding in Africa today didn't march through capital cities with banners and slogans, but flowed underground, in fiber optic cables, through sunlit rooftops, and across fields once left to rot? This is the story they were never supposed to tell. And today we're going to show you why they're trying so hard to silence it. 10 projects, 10 carefully executed blueprints, all launched under the leadership of one man, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Not with fanfare, not with foreign aid on a golden platter, but with strategic defiance, local labor, and a vision that sees past dependency and into a new era of self-made sovereignty. The revolution didn't start in the halls of government. It started beside a roadside, where baskets of tomatoes lay, rotting in the sun. It started in villages where people had never seen electricity, where children walked miles to fetch water, and where mothers gave birth in the dark. It began with the kind of suffering that doesn't make headlines but builds pressure over generations, until one day, it breaks through. And that's exactly what Burkina Faso has done. It broke through. One brick, one road, one solar panel, at a time. Under Traoré's watch, this so-called landlocked nation has built a food revolution that threatens the profit margins of Europe. It has opened highways that bypass colonial chokeholds. It has launched solar programs connecting 300,000 people to power for the first time. And that's just the beginning. Health systems are being rebuilt. Water is being reclaimed. Urban planning is being reinvented for dignity, not profit. The banks, the fiber, the farms, they're all being rewired for Burkinabe people, not foreign shareholders. It's not just a development story. It's not even just a sovereignty story. It's a blueprint, a living map for how post-colonial states can flip the script without firing a bullet. This isn't the return of empire. This is the rise of the underdog. And if you think this has nothing to do with you, think again. Because in a world of rising costs, crumbling infrastructure, and digital dependency, the country you overlooked might be building the blueprint you'll one day copy. Welcome to Burkina Faso. Welcome to the quiet storm. Let's begin. They called it red gold. Not because it was rare, but because for decades it was wasted. Tomatoes, harvested by hand under the searing Sahel sun, were left to rot on the roadside. Sold for pennies, or worse, shipped abroad, processed into paste, and re-imported into Burkina Faso at triple the price. It was one of the cruelest tricks of global trade. Local farmers producing what they could not profit from, their labor devalued by a system designed to exploit, not empower. But Traoré saw something else in those rotting tomatoes. He saw a revolution. Enter the $8 million tomato processing plant, a state-of-the-art facility planted in the heart of the country's most productive agricultural zone. But this wasn't just about machinery and output. This was about reclaiming control. By transforming raw produce into value-added goods within Burkina Faso's borders, Traoré's government wasn't just fighting food waste. It was reversing decades of economic sabotage. For every ton of tomatoes now processed locally, thousands of West African francs remain in the domestic economy. For every crate that makes it to paste instead of the landfill, a family gains financial security. This one factory has already created over 150 direct jobs, machine operators, lab technicians, engineers. But the impact ripples much further. Crate suppliers, transporters, packaging producers, and hundreds of small-scale farmers are now part of a structured supply chain, one that pays fair prices, one that reinvests locally, one that treats agriculture, not as subsistence but as sovereignty. The philosophy is simple but revolutionary. Grow what you eat what you grow, and do it on your terms, not the West's. The plant was built without foreign conditions, no strings attached from international lenders. Instead, it was financed by the state, backed by BRICS-aligned partners, and designed to anchor an agro-industrial revolution. Training centers are now syncing with the plant's needs, teaching youth not just how to grow food but how to build systems. When to plant, what varieties to use, how to engineer output, and how to innovate. But tomatoes alone don't change nations. They need to move. They need markets. And for that, Traoré turned to infrastructure. Enter the $120 million Bobo Dioulasso, Ivory Coast Highway, a sleek ribbon of asphalt that does more than carry goods. It carries strategy. This corridor of sovereignty stretches from Burkina Faso's second-largest city to the Atlantic coast. It doesn't just connect producers to ports, it liberates a landlocked economy from its dependence on colonial trade routes. For decades, the north-south axis of trade ran through French-controlled channels, but this highway cuts through those limitations. Transport times are down, costs are slashed, and new southern trade routes are emerging, routes controlled not by Paris but by Ouagadougou. This is not just a road. It's a geopolitical move, a declaration. Built with local labor and regional cooperation, this project rejects the vanity mega-projects of the past. It anchors national recovery with every paved mile. Communities along the route are transforming. Logistics hubs, rest stops, and small markets are springing up. Jobs are being created. Goods are flowing. For the first time in a generation, Burkina Faso isn't waiting at the border. It's setting the direction. But even roads must be powered. And in a country where blackouts were once the norm, Traoré knew that energy had to be local, clean, and resilient. Enter Yellen, the boldest solar initiative Burkina Faso has ever seen. Backed by the World Bank and the Green Climate Fund, the Yellen project is lighting up over 150 villages and delivering power to more than 300,000 people, many for the very first time. But this is about more than flipping a switch. This is about flipping the system. Yellen deploys decentralized mini-grids and standalone solar units in the most neglected parts of the country. Schools, clinics, markets, homes. Places the national grid never reached and never cared to. In rural clinics, it means vaccines don't spoil. In classrooms, it means lessons continue after sunset. For shopkeepers, it means refrigeration, longer hours, and the first real chance to scale. More importantly, all of it is being installed and maintained by Burkinabe technicians. Every panel is not just a source of light, it's a job. It's capacity. It's dignity. This is citizen-powered energy. No diesel fumes, no imported oil. No fragile dependency on grids built for someone else's profit. Yellen is not just electrifying villages. It's rewiring the economic DNA of the country. And with plans to expand to hundreds more communities, it's becoming less of a project and more of a movement. A solar-powered liberation. Can a tomato, a road, and a ray of sunlight destabilize an empire? In Burkina Faso, it just might. Before you can build a nation, you must first heal its wounds. For decades, Burkina Faso's southwest region lived in medical silence. Crumbling clinics, outdated equipment, pregnant mothers walking for hours just to be turned away. Young children, suffering preventable diseases because there simply weren't enough trained doctors. It was a quiet crisis, one no aid brochure could capture, one no policy meeting in Geneva ever solved. It took a radical shift in thinking to ask, what if a hospital could become the temple of sovereignty? Rising now from the red earth of Bobo Dioulasso is a response generations in the making. The Regional University Hospital, a marvel of medicine and meaning. Designed not only to treat, but to transform, it will be one of the most advanced health centers in Burkina Faso. But what truly makes it revolutionary is not the tech or architecture, its location. This hospital wasn't built in the capital. It was built where people were once told to wait. Wait for the state. Wait for rescue. Wait for miracles. That wait is over. Built to handle everything from emergency surgeries to maternal care, the facility is powered by clean energy from Yellen solar grids and connected by new ambulance corridors that link rural clinics to centralized data systems. Every ward is a step away from dependency. Every patient treated is a reminder. Health should never be a luxury reserved for the elite. More than just a hospital, it's a training ground for the next generation of Burkinabe doctors and nurses. No more reliance on foreign personnel. No more flying the critically ill abroad. This is healthcare reborn with dignity, rooted in the soil of national resilience. But even a world-class hospital needs water, clean, constant, sovereign, because without water, no nation breathes. That's why near the capital city, the Ziga 2 Dam is being carved into the landscape, not just to collect rain, but to reclaim life. For years, dry seasons left taps barren and hospitals rationing every drop. Women trekked miles with plastic jugs. Families shared unfiltered sources with livestock. In the shadow of poverty, thirst ruled. Ziga 2 changes everything. Once completed, it will secure clean water for hundreds of thousands of residents across Ouagadougou and beyond. But it doesn't stop at storage. This project is about flow. Water that moves through solar-powered pumps, that filters through modern sanitation systems, that reaches homes, schools, farms with purpose, not profit. It is a people-first water grid, built with climate-adapted engineering and a governance model that rejects private exploitation. Ziga 2 is part of a wider national plan to expand rural water systems, preserve aquifers, and even teach farmers how to harvest rain. It's not a dam. It's a lifeline. And as water flows and electricity illuminates the dark, the next question emerges. Where do people live? And how? In the past, urban growth in Burkina Faso meant chaos. Fragile infrastructure. Informal settlements clinging to hope. But now, there's a new blueprint on the rise. Faso Maya. Faso Maya is not just housing, it is the architecture of aspiration. The plan, 50,000 residential units, designed to be affordable, climate resilient, built with local materials and by local hands. It's a mass construction effort that puts dignity back into the design of daily life. These homes are not for the wealthy. They are for teachers, farmers, laborers, the people who hold this country together. Each home is a declaration. You belong. Every wall built generates jobs for masons, electricians, carpenters, and urban planners. Every block laid is a paycheck, a skill passed on, a community reborn. But the true genius of Faso Maya lies in its integration. These are not isolated homes. They exist within ecosystems, wide roads, green public spaces, playgrounds for children, schools within walking distance, and clinics that serve, not exclude. Drainage systems are modernized to prevent flooding. Public transport hubs connect neighborhoods to economic zones. It is the city of tomorrow, rising today from Sahelian soil. This is what happens when a nation stops building for appearance and starts building for endurance. When it stops mimicking the cities of its colonizers and starts imagining something better, something native, something whole. In these homes, children will dream. In these clinics, lives will be saved. In these markets, economies will grow. But more than anything, in these spaces, Burkinabe families will feel what many have been denied for decades: safety, belonging, hope. You cannot liberate a people unless you house, heal, and honor them. And now, for the first time in modern history, Burkina Faso is doing all three. In most parts of the world, a bank is just a building. In Burkina Faso, it's a battlefield. For decades, international financial institutions dominated the landscape, catering to the urban elite, foreign investors, and companies with ties to Europe or global trade. Meanwhile, rural families, small businesses, and the entire informal economy were left stranded, unbanked, unprotected, invisible. That changes with Burkin, the first state-owned bank designed not to extract profit, but to empower the everyday citizen. This is more than a building with tellers and vaults. It is an instrument of economic inclusion, a rebellion in financial form. Burkin was born out of a simple but radical question. What if banks worked for the people, not the other way around? Today, Burkin is rolling out mobile banking services across Burkina Faso, in local languages using local staff. From the streets of Ouagadougou to remote farming villages, Burkina offers low-interest loans, basic savings accounts, and microcredit for women entrepreneurs. No long lines, no predatory rates, no paperwork designed to intimidate. Just access, just opportunity. Young innovators can now secure seed capital. Farmers can finally buy machinery, expand their land, or invest in irrigation. Families can save for the future without traveling for hours to the nearest branch. And for the first time, national housing and agricultural programs are being integrated with financial services. From mortgage support for Faso Maya residents to group loans for farming cooperatives. But in today's world, money moves through more than banks. Power, real power, flows through data. And for too long, Burkina Faso's data was stored abroad, managed by foreign firms, and accessed only with permission from digital gatekeepers. That ends now. Enter Passy Digital, a $150 million digital transformation initiative that is redefining what sovereignty looks like in the information age. 2 national data centers, now more than 70% complete, will anchor the country's new digital infrastructure. These aren't just servers, they're fortresses, hubs where everything from civil registries to health records, land titles, tax systems, and ID databases will be housed under Burkinabe control. With this backbone in place, public services are going online. Citizens will soon be able to register for school, apply for permits, pay taxes, and manage healthcare, all from a mobile phone. No bribes, no delays, no red tape, just access, speed, and transparency. PAC Digital is also bridging the divide that kept millions offline. Network coverage is expanding to 500 underserved localities. Digital literacy programs are training youth, women, and small business owners to participate in a rising tech economy. New legal frameworks are being written to protect user data, fight surveillance, and encourage local innovation. This is not just about going digital. It's about going sovereign. Because without digital control, there is no modern independence. And if your servers are in Paris, how free are you, really? But economic systems don't run on data alone. In rural Burkina Faso, wealth doesn't sit in accounts, it grazes in fields. Livestock is not just tradition, it's currency, culture, inheritance, nutrition, and power. And for too long, this sector was ignored. Yields were low. Disease outbreaks were common. Markets were fragmented, but now that's changing. With support from the World Bank, Traoré's administration has launched the Livestock Sector Development Support Project, a quiet revolution walking on 4 legs. This isn't about growing more cattle, it's about building an ecosystem. Mobile veterinary teams, vaccination drives, improved feed systems, and credit lines tailored to herders. Livestock mortality rates are dropping. Food security is rising, and rural women, who often manage small ruminants, are gaining financial autonomy. New processing centers are turning milk, meat, and hides into market-ready products. Cold storage units and logistics are extending shelf life and opening new export windows. It's a full-scale modernization of one of Burkina Faso's most vital sectors. And it's all connected. The livestock economy now links to solar power, clean water, digital banking, and regional trade routes. What was once informal and vulnerable is becoming commercial, resilient, and strategic. So whether it's a goat in a northern village, a fiber optic cable under the capital, or a savings account in a rural town, each piece is part of the same story. These are not scattered projects, they're not PR stunts. They are the architecture of a post-colonial blueprint, a self-sufficient nation rising from within, not waiting for permission, not asking for approval, just building. And the world, it's watching. What began with a tomato, a solar panel, and a forgotten village has become something far greater than infrastructure. This is not just about buildings, roads, and data centers. It's about rewriting identity. In Burkina Faso, concrete is being poured not just into foundations but into the narrative of who holds power and who gets to define development. This isn't aid, it isn't charity, it is design, by, for, and with the people. Across the country, every brick laid, Every line of code written and every cow vaccinated is an act of reclamation. These are the small revolutions that don't make headlines but make history, and they are stacking up fast. The West called it fragile. Now it builds systems stronger than the ones that tried to contain it. They called it irrelevant. Now, its food, fiber, and finance flows defy colonial legacies. Burkina Faso is no longer just rising. It is mapping a route no one predicted. Sovereignty isn't declared in speeches. It's built in factories, forged in data centers, and grown in homes where lights stay on after dark. And if one of the world's most underestimated nations can rise from the ashes of extraction and neglect, then the question becomes urgent. What's stopping others? If Burkina Faso can do it without asking for permission, with limited resources, under pressure from both within and without, then what excuse remains for the rest of us? For the neighbors still stalling, for the partners still doubting, for the powers still pretending Africa must wait its turn. The blueprint is no longer theoretical. It's real, living, working. So, is the West still leading? Or is it now learning? And, for those watching, here's what you need to understand. This isn't the end. These 10 projects are only the beginning. Because just when you thought the blueprint was complete, Captain Traoré is preparing his next move. One that could turn this quiet rebellion into a full-scale renaissance. One that could transform the Sahel into a hub of innovation, not intervention. A tech ecosystem rooted in sovereignty. A data-driven economy designed for dignity. The project that might just turn Burkina Faso into the Silicon Valley of West Africa. But that's a story for next week. Stay tuned.